Hi, this is Andy Copping from the Download Festival, and you're listening to Matt and Pete from Macho Grande.
Hi guys, welcome to episode 194 of Macho Grande. I'm Pete.
And I'm Matt.
And this is our Download Festival 2018 coverage review show, except this year it's a bit different because unfortunately it was only me that got to go.
Yes. So it should be an interesting show for both listeners and me because I've no idea what happened.
Yeah, well, we've not talked, and I've deliberately not kind of talked to Matt to let him know what I thought about any of the bands. So at least there's a little bit of a conversation. But you're kind of stuck with me on this show. But it'll be a bit of a short show. We're just going to run the interviews, and then we're going to be back to normal on the next show next week because that's pretty much prepped and good to go. And there's a whole load of new releases to talk about and stuff, and loads of news to catch up on.
Yes, and people will probably be happy that I don't have to speak too much either.
It was actually a perfectly clear, wonderful weather weekend, and there wasn't a drop of rain all weekend. I was in my element on the Friday and Saturday because it was just cloudy, and then Sunday was sunny.
Yep. Well, I did think that was the sort of sod's law of everything. I was seeing all these photos, and everything just looked green, slightly overcast, but t-shirt weather and enjoyable. Whereas
you suffered 4 years of hell.
Yeah, I've never done well. It does seem a bit sort of like typical that the year I don't go is the year that is literally my perfect sort of weather and no mud.
Yeah, no mud whatsoever anywhere. I stayed in my trainers all weekend.
Fantastic, that's incredible.
So I'll just kind of crack through, and I'll mention the bands I reviewed, and as I say, we're going to run the interviews. We've got some cool interviews, Tesseract, Knock Loose, Gold Key, Cancer Bats, Helpless, and Die Art Is Murder. And obviously I'll talk about my sort of favourite bands over the weekend and stuff. Matt, just fucking chip in with whatever you want to say, basically.
Okay, I mean, I've purposely not really seen anything. I've avoided watching anything on like YouTube as well.
Okay, cool.
Purely because it was just like begrudgingly didn't want to make myself feel any worse for having not been able to get there. But you know,
yeah, it was all a bit of a last minute kind of rush, and even like the press stuff was, and all the crews. It was a bit different this year, and there wasn't as much going on, and it felt like a quieter year press wise. Yeah, I don't know. There just wasn't quite as much going on. Certainly, there was less interviews being done by most of the crews. So we'll kick things off with one of the interviews. We'll go straight in with a biggie, and this is me having a chat with Dan from Tesseract. Am I right in thinking this is the first time headlining a stage at Download?
It is, yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
It's fantastic. You know, 2 years ago we played on the Encore stage. It was like 3 in the afternoon. 7,000 or 8,000 people. Amazing. You know, to be a UK band doing that at Download, that's one thing. But to headline your own stage at Download as a UK metal band, yeah, it's a little bit of a statement. You know, we're quite, we've worked very hard to get to this point.
Yeah,
so
totally.
we'll see where it takes us. But tonight's going to be great. We've got our own light production.
Nice. I can't wait.
The tour we just came over from doing in the States, we've brought the whole package. So it's going to look and sound good.
So the set for tonight, is it picked for tonight? Or?
Oh, it's picked for tonight.
Right,
yeah.
cool.
Yeah, it's a little bit shorter than the run we did because obviously I think we did like a 90-minute set. Tonight's maybe 45, 50 minutes, something like that. But still. We'll be playing new songs from Sonder and some, off the stage, blah, blah, blah.
So the new album, I love that you went head-to-head with A Perfect Circle on your, your release day.
That was a coincidence.
So, yeah, I mean, when you found out that... Because the thing that fascinates me when something like that happens is obviously these days, there's not many record stores, not as many people go to record stores, yet on that day, everyone would have gone to the record store. Because it's not every day A Perfect Circle release an album, not to detract from Sonder in any way.
Oh, yeah, totally get
but
it.
I wonder whether there was a knock-on effect.
Maybe. Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure we have some crossover with fans.
Yeah.
I mean, A Perfect Circle are one of my favourite artists. I saw them on their Murder Noms tour at Rock City in Nottingham.
Cool.
And that was actually the point when I saw a singer that I absolutely fell in love with, and the whole performance changed my outlook on being a singer and wanting to be in a band. That really that kind of pushed me over the edge. Like, I want to do this.
Yeah.
So yeah, but it was a coincidence. But I know for a fact we do share fans. So, and I'm sure we've made a few on the side of that as well.
Yeah.
So, maybe. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, when that next Tool UK run, it's a nice fit. It's a nice fit.
Let's wait and see. It would be incredible. I mean, I think they're playing arenas, so it'd be like Wembley, etc. So, wow, to play Wembley would be incredible.
Yeah, I've spent the majority of the new album listening with my headphones to the 3D binaural mix.
Yeah.
Now I'm guessing that wasn't just file save as. What was and how much work went into doing that?
That was all Ackle with the 3D mix.
Yeah.
We actually worked with Clang, who have a software where you can mix your own sound in 3D as well. So when we recorded Phoenix and Hexes at Metropolis Studios, we used their equipment, and they said, "Do you want to use this as a potential way of mixing a record as a product?" So I don't know the technicalities of it, but I know that it can only operate through headphones. You can't listen through speakers. But basically, you're able to manipulate and move certain elements of the mix to be perceived in front of you or behind you or left and right. So
it's very odd because about maybe 10 years ago, a load of bands suddenly did this Super Audio CD with 5.1.
Oh yeah,
right? But that was like crazy panning everywhere, and this isn't that. This really is spatially. It's spatially. Like I was trying to describe it to somebody, and I couldn't. Other than you should experience it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's a next level with it. I think obviously it's a new thing for Ackle to have mixed. I know that he wasn't particularly happy with how it turned out, but I think he did a great job. It's a new way of mixing. So.
Yeah. Cool.
I'm sure you'll see a lot more of that in the future.
Right, sweet. I also love the artwork for the new album. Can you tell me a little bit behind that?
Yeah, well, the whole concept of the album revolves around Sonder, the word, which I'm sure you may have read up on and researched by now. But Amos wanted to create an image that kind of summed up the whole perspective of Sonder in one image. So he just took the solar system, and then because it kind of ties in with the theme, because Sonder is obviously it's the awareness that people around you are living very complex and vivid lives, equally as complex as your own. So that kind of can go one of two ways. It can make you feel very insignificant because you suddenly realise that you're not the most important person in the room. But also, if you look at aspects of life from the very microbial to flora and fauna and mountains and the world itself and planets and solar systems and galaxies and the universe, the further you start going back, the more incredible we actually become to actually exist and have a consciousness as human beings. So that can go one or two ways, and he wanted to capture it in an image. I think he did really well.
And so what's the plans next?
Well, we've got a lot more festivals. We're doing Download Spain, Hellfest, Grass Pop, just to mention a few off the top of my head.
Have you got a favourite festival that you normally play at?
Download, man. I live 20 minutes away. And
cool.
I saw a lot of my favourite bands as a young lad at Download Festival. So again, to be headlining here as well, it's a big deal. But yeah, we've got a UK and EU run with Between the Buried and Me and Pliny in October. In Australia, we want to get to Asia at some point, and also write a new album.
Yeah, nice. Well, that's quick then.
Yeah,
right.
We want to get straight on it.
So finally, if anybody out there hasn't heard Tesseract before, what one song should they go and check out right now?
I think currently probably something like Luminary or King. I think that's a good introduction because with Sonder we've taken an element from each album to create like a hybrid Tesseract sound. So the problem that we have as a band is that every album is different. Well, it's not necessarily a problem, but for a new listener you might want to check out something that has every element of Tesseract in it, and that would definitely be from Sonder.
Cool. Thank you very much. Have a great set.
Awesome,
cheers.
Yeah.
So the Friday, didn't see as many bands on the Friday. Most of the interviews were on the Friday, and the way they worked, there was just like a slightly awkward gap of not quite enough time to get out. Do you know what I mean? Like just in between. So I kind of hung around in press to get those done and then headed out.
Right.
But the Friday for me, the first band was Marmozets, and they were on the main stage. Like they came across really well. Like it was a nice balance of quite upbeat tunes. It was a nice mix of plenty of new stuff, and then the big tracks from the first album. Becca is fantastic on stage, like real presence. You could tell there was definitely a lot of people in the crowd that didn't know the stuff, but at the same time it felt like they were being won over, which was nice.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed it because I think their first album's good, and I think the second album is so catchy. I love like all the singles on that. It's a really, really good album. Then Volbeat were on the main stage.
Okay.
Now Volbeat, as we've discussed, aren't really for us, but they're huge in Europe. Like they headline festivals in Europe. So I went in with an open mind, and they get requested at the club every now and again, and I do try and play some singles. And I have to say, no matter what I play, I'm yet to be won over. I thought it was the most watered down, horrible thing I've ever seen.
Yep.
It really, really wasn't for me. They did have a fairly sizable crowd. I couldn't stand it, and like the people I were with, everybody just felt the same and said, "Let's just get out of here." It was horrible. So I'm afraid that is just a massive thumbs down. Could not stand them. Thought we'd catch the end of Jonathan Davis, who was on the second stage. He was doing his solo material.
Oh yes, and how was that?
Well, we got there with 10 minutes to spare, and he'd already finished. So,
right.
So that was a massive fail. So I didn't get to see any Jonathan Davis, unfortunately. Bullet had a big crowd, and what I saw of them, it seemed to be going down fine. And obviously that's a nice pairing of, you know, if you're going to put Avenged Sevenfold on, you know, have Bullet on before them. That, you know, that's a nice pairing. So, yeah, that seemed pretty big. People were singing along. I've never been a massive fan, but it was cool seeing Jason Bold obviously doing all the drum stuff for him as well, which is cool. I then went to watch Tesseract headline the blue the tent, the third tent. And their set was ace. They brought like their lighting rig, as Dan was just talking on the interview over, so it looked cool. The sound was amazing in the tent. Big crowd. And it was... Obviously, you know, Tesseract songs are pretty long. You got a couple of tracks off the new album, like Luminary and King, and then they did the kind of big parts of Concealing Fate. So, in between those tracks, you got Concealing Fate. I think it was 1, 2, and 3, but not necessarily in that order. So,
I did see their footage from what festival was it a week ago?
Oh, I don't know.
Or the week before Download. Is it Rock am Ring?
Yes. Oh, that was kind of at the same... Yeah, just before, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I did see some live footage from that where they were doing a really good set, and it was actually quite good to hear him sing some songs from the second album.
Oh, cool. Nice.
Obviously, the times I have caught them, he wasn't doing those songs. They were just doing the first album, or... Now that they've sort of like got a couple of albums out since he's been back, they've been able to mix it up a bit.
And the new stuff went down well. It sounded really good. So yeah, really enjoyed Tesseract, and it was just really cool seeing them, you know, headlining a stage. So that was ace. Then Avenged. Now I'm not an Avenged Sevenfold fan. I'm a little bit baffled as to why they're headlining it again so soon as well. Especially after the first time didn't feel particularly like the crowd was that big for them.
When was the last time they headlined it? It was 2015?
2014 it was. That was Avenged, Linkin Park, and Aerosmith.
It seems shorter.
Yeah, I mean, but even that, you know, that considering neither of the last two albums also felt that big, I think it seemed a little bit strange. And, you know, I've never been a fan other than, you know, briefly liking... like Waking the Fallen at the time, but I thought I'd give it a go. You know, they came on, they did like the stage and Afterlife and Hail to the King, Welcome to the Family, and then by that point, honestly, it just felt like guitar solo, and then it started to just feel like the riffs were guitar solos, and the camera just constantly seemed to be just filming guitar solos, and I just had enough. I just couldn't take any more guitar.
It sounds like you were rather drunk by that point.
I really wasn't. It was quite, you know, it wasn't like it normally is.
Right.
But there was a lot of guitar solos. And bearing in mind, I'm not a particularly big fan of the band anyway. They did a cover of Pink Floyd, which was quite weird because Guns N' Roses did the same cover. Which is a bit odd. But so, you know, I mean, Avenged aren't for me. But the show didn't, I don't know, it didn't feel that big to me either. So there's a band on the Saturday which eclipsed everything, and their show was big.
Right.
So that was kind of my Friday, really. I don't think there was anybody else I caught.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, not that many. There's loads I would have loved to have caught. You know, I missed Hell is for Heroes. That would have been nice. And I would have loved to have seen Cancer Bats. You know, there was a nice mix of bands, but yeah, unfortunately, that was it for the Friday.
Okay.
So let's jump into another interview. This is me having a chat with Knocked Loose. You're due on stage really soon.
Yes, we are.
So the set for something like this, do you pick it differently, or?
Sometimes you have to cut things a little short. Sometimes you have to extend things depending on how much you're playing. But we have a set that we play every single time before a tour. We plan it before the tour. Sometimes we have to change little things, like maybe a song, something like that. But This time we actually got lucky. We're able to play our full set.
Do you get to hang out? Are you here tomorrow as well?
Yeah, no, we're actually just staying here today. We're playing a show tomorrow back in the mainland.
Right.
But yeah, we're definitely staying, hanging out the rest of the day, and just catching some bands.
This is the first time you've been to Download Festival?
First time I've ever been to Download.
How does this compare to like stateside?
It's definitely the biggest thing I've ever been to. Definitely the biggest thing.
Because you guys did Warped Tour last year, wasn't it? Which is like the biggest and longest running festival.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's amazing. I loved it. We had a great time. It's probably it looks like 1/100th of this.
It's good that you got in, because this year this is last year.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Very, very cool. I'm very happy to be a part of it. We were a part of it last year for the whole thing, so to be able to be a part of it now is very, very cool.
Right, sweet. So, Laugh Tracks.
Yeah.
Which came out, what, a year and a half?
Yeah.
Something nearly.
Yeah, almost.
Like that,
like 2 years ago.
I DJ at quite a big alternative club.
Okay, cool.
And the hardcore kids straight away fucking all over it.
It's so sick.
Which is great.
Yeah, very
But
cool.
then slowly, and it seems to have been a slow build, but slowly it's just gathered a much wider fan base.
Yeah.
Is that something you've noticed?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's something we've always tried to do from the beginning, is actually just play to new people. We've always been we've always played hardcore shows, toured with hardcore bands, but we've never like confined ourselves to a certain space. We've always wanted to play to different people.
I was going to say, do you like being on a bill with
exactly. Love it.
Cool.
I mean, and personally, like, you can ask different people in the band, they'll give you different answers depending on what their preferences are, but me, I love playing the mixed bill stuff. I think it's amazing. It's very, very cool. It's very humbling. It's very, very cool to be able to show people new things, experience things that I haven't seen before. And I love hardcore, I love metal, I love heavy music.
I was going to ask you, like, any particular favorite influences.
I've listened to even like when I was a kid, like our band is like 100% influenced by like the early 2000s metalcore stuff. We love bands like Martyr AD, we love bands like Disembodied, we love bands like Poison the Well. That's probably, there you go. But yeah, that's our shit. That's what but we've never, even when writing records, we've never tried to like confine ourselves to a space. We're always trying to experiment and be as heavy and as like aggressive as we can be, but while taking different influences from different places.
So have you started planning the next one?
We have. We've begun writing it. It's been a long process because.
Are you quite a meticulous kind of group? Do you like to plan shit?
We weren't. When we were writing Laugh Tracks, we were super excited about everything we wrote. This time we've just spent a lot of time just chilling out, trying to figure out what we wanted for the next record. Really planning it, making sure it's as good as we wanted to. We've written songs, we've gotten rid of songs, but we've already landed on a batch of songs that we really like, and we're going to continue to work with that. It's not being recorded right now. There's no final plans, there's no dates, nothing like that, but it's being written, and it's going really well. We're really excited about it.
Is there pressure after so much good press and good reviews?
Yeah, that's why we're taking our time with it, man, because we don't want to rush something that important, But we're taking our time with it, but we're happy with it right now. We're definitely stoked on how it's coming.
And then if anyone out there's never heard Knock Loose before, what one song would you go and direct them to right now?
As of right now, I'd probably say Billy No Mates would be the song. It's a song off of our debut LP, Laugh Tracks. It's very fast, it's very aggressive the whole time, and it's a good starter, to where things, go to from there. So
nice one. Thank you very much for chatting.
Thank you, man.
Cheers,
I appreciate it.
All right, Saturday, much busier day.
Yeah, I saw lots of photos of the main field on the Saturday, mainly from Saturday, and it looked really busy.
Yeah, I mean, you could just from getting up and looking outside to the road, and it was just backed with traffic both ways. Like, the whole place was huge on Saturday. I mean, Friday's always going to be the quieter day, but obviously Saturday's the Guns N' Roses day. Yeah.
Plus the weather.
Yeah, it was notably, packed everywhere. And the main stage, like, no matter what band was on, the view of the stage was the crowd was just huge from every angle.
Yeah.
And I think with something like that, you get a lot of people who will just kind of pick their spot, and it's like, no, this is my area.
Yeah.
First band we actually caught was the very tail end of Lawnmower Death, because I wanted to be there for Corrosion and Conformity, and they were on before them. they just seemed like they were having a hell of a good time. Like, it felt like a very, very fun crowd who were up for it, and they were clearly having a blast on stage. Corrosion and Conformity, who I like a lot, they kind of came on to like a jam, which you might expect of them. You know, they're kind of southerny rock, you know, they like sludge riff, so they kind of sort of ambled on doing this jam, but it kind of didn't go anywhere. And then they did a couple of tracks I didn't know, and then it kind of picked up because they did like Albatross and Clean My Wounds and stuff. But even in Clean My Wounds, like, they did this massive jam in the middle of the track, which for me really didn't add anything. I mean, it was cool seeing them all up there. It's cool seeing Pepper with them. They had an okay crowd, but it didn't really felt like people were singing along necessarily. So it was okay, but I wouldn't go crazy over it.
Yeah. Did you catch Bernie Berry tomorrow after that?
No, because then I had to dash off and do the other couple of interviews, unfortunately. So I missed them, which was a bit gutting. From what I've heard, they went down a storm and had a huge crowd, though. Yeah,
I saw photos from their Instagram, which looked mental from the main stage, from the back of the stage.
Yeah, I mean that second stage really. It's funny how much it changes. Like, it can absolutely be packed out, and then, as I'll talk about on the Sunday, like, sometimes it can be quite sparse, and you can kind of stand wherever, depending on the bands and the crowd, and I guess what's happening on the main stage. Main stage, weirdly enough, like, the band of the day from the gossip was weirdly Thunder. Now, I don't know a single Thunder track, and I used to DJ like biker nights and dingy rock bars, and I've done a classic rock night at the club. No one's ever asked me for a Thunder track, and I couldn't name a single one. But apparently the crowd for Thunder, and we were watching it on the screen in press as well, they were singing along, they knew that shit. And then one of the security guards in press was saying the only trouble he had all weekend was when Thunder strolled out of the press area, or into the press garden, and he said this mob that was in VIP just charged him to kind of hold people back.
Right.
Which, like, it baffles me, because, like I said, I really don't know anybody who's ever talked about Thunder, but yeah. So they had a huge crowd. Then it was Blackstone Cherry, who, again, people were singing along to that. I mean, it's kind of predictable, that very safe, you know, American rock radio crowd, and obviously Blackstone Cherry huge anyway, so yeah. But it is what it is. I mean, I didn't find it particularly exciting. So then it was all about Parkway Drive, who were on insanely early on the second stage, because they were sort of done just before Guns N' Roses started.
Well, I think, everyone had to be done for before Guns N' Roses.
Well, I thought that, and then somebody said Die Art was still on in one of the tents at the same time.
Oh, yeah,
so,
the tent that tent was allowed to carry on.
So the second stage had to be done, which means Parkway finished at like 7:10.
Ugh.
Yeah, exactly. However, now this is going to surprise you, Parkway Drive, we were there for the whole set. They were the band of the weekend. And
really?
Yeah, I'm not kidding. I couldn't be more surprised. They were freaking amazing, right? They sounded and looked huge.
Right.
It really was that good. I can't remember if I listed what tracks. Honestly, I couldn't be more surprised, because obviously on this show I have slated their last two albums, and before that. I mean, I haven't liked that much stuff off the one before, but there's always been a few tracks. And I really, didn't like Aya, and I don't particularly like the new one. There's a couple of tracks that I can tolerate and that I'll play at the club, but I'm not kidding. That stuff, and they just looked the part, and they were having fun. The sound was amazing, and their stage set is ridiculous. Like, it is a big, big show. Everything's on fire.
Yeah.
Everything is on fire. And then you've got the spinning drum kit, which looks cool. I mean, he's not the world's greatest drummer, but as a visual, spectacle to add on top of this stuff, it really looked the part, and it was cool. And then obviously they set all that on fire and then sent that spinning around again. Absolutely huge show. Honestly, I couldn't be more surprised. And they really, really just stepped up to that mantle. The crowd was huge, and they were cheering along for all kinds of stuff. The older stuff went down as well. I mean, obviously they played like Wishing Wells, Pray, Vice Grip. I think there was, and this goes to show, like, I enjoyed it, even though there was like 5 odd tracks off Aya, and they did like The Voids, Idols and Anchors, Karma, Destroyer, Bottom Feeder, Crushed, Wild Eyes. So for me, it was like the tracks I like off the bad albums. Do you know what I mean? So all the tracks I can kind of tolerate, they were the ones that were chosen. So the whole set was just bouncy and big and full of riffs. I mean, obviously, sadly, nothing off Killing with a Smile. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed them, and they were fantastic. It was huge. My only slight bit would be when he did the kind of rappy moments, which sadly he does do live, which somehow the crowd seemed to tolerate. I mean, on one part, they were even kind of clapping along, which those bits I still think are horrific. But that side, yeah, I couldn't be more surprised. I mean, you know, we've talked before, you know, it seems strange that they've become this sized, despite people certainly like us not liking the albums. But yeah, it was a really big show. It was really cool. And then it just felt dead classy. Like, it felt really slick and polished. Finish everything off. Big ending, huge, like massive, great big flamethrowers everywhere. And then all of a sudden this backdrop just kind of exploded out of nowhere with all the arena dates that have just been announced. It was a really nice little touch. It was very, very cool.
On the Facebook today.
Yeah, it was wicked.
It seems a shame that they were forced to end early, given the sort of stage production in that case. It would have been nice to see it a bit darker.
Yeah, I mean, by 7:20, considering they had this awesome rig and all this fire, I mean, it's still completely daylight, which was a shame. And now, so what makes that even weird is obviously Guns N' Roses, much was said that they're going to do this 3-hour set. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
All right, so 7:20 till 10:50 or something, this 3-hour set. Or 10 step, whatever that works out. And I just kind of assumed, right, well, obviously they're not going to go on at 7:20. It'll be 8 till 11. And that'll be the 3-hour set if they manage 3 hours.
Yeah.
And weirdly enough, they came on 1 minute early. So they went on just before 7:20. Bang on.
Right.
And they smashed out a load of Appetite stuff, which is the only Guns N' Roses stuff I can really tolerate. So actually, I was pleasantly surprised and quite enjoyed like the first part of the set, because it was very heavy of... hold on. There's me Saturday notes. So like they came on with It's So Easy, and then bang into Mr. Brownstone. Then there was Chinese Democracy, which was a bit like meh. But then straight into Welcome to the Jungle. So like all this big stuff straight away. And they sounded pretty tight. I thought, you know, it sounded fine.
Yeah.
Then it all got very guitar solo heavy and very costume change heavy, and then there was just so many covers. I think in total there was something like 9 or 10 covers, which is ridiculous. I know, it's ridiculous. So by that point, I mean, I'd firmly lost all interest by that point. That novelty of the Appetite start had long gone. So we kind of just dipped in and out and watched a bit from press as well. But yeah, something like 9 covers, and including the Wish You Were Here cover that Avenged did the night before. And then they finished something like 10:15. So you got all this massive production and lighting and stuff. Why go on so early when it's daylight? I am a little bit baffled by that. And plus, obviously, you've made Parkway finish so early with their incredible setup. So I do think that's kind of odd. I mean, if you believe the rumours, they were paid $5 million for their download performance, which I am baffled by the whole Guns N' Roses phenomenon as it is. Because you've only got, 3 of the guys anyway. And to go to a show and, you know, there's like 10 covers and all this prattling about and endless guitar solos. But it was, I was pleasantly surprised at the start, because obviously the last time we saw them, they went on...
Yeah, I mean, the last time I saw them was, 2006 download?
Yeah, I mean, he just kept storming off stage and randomly shouting about things, and then they went on solo. I mean, it was an utter mess. But obviously this was pre the AC/DC tour and stuff, you know.
Yeah, people started burning stuff because they went past the 11 o'clock curfew, and just it was a complete mess.
Yeah, it was a mess, you know. So I mean, yeah, there was a few. I mean, it was nice to hear like Civil War, and they closed down Paradise, and then they did a Chris Cornell cover right at the end. But I mean, it's just not quite for me, and as I said, I don't quite get the attraction of it all. So yeah, that was Guns N' Roses. But yeah, Parkway. Couldn't be more surprised. Loved it.
Wow.
Right, let's bang out another interview. This is me having a chat with Gold Key. Unfortunately, we got onto the site quite late and I didn't get to see you, but how was it? Did you have a good set?
It was really good, man.
It was the gig of the whole festival. You missed out.
Yeah. It was nice. Yeah, it was really good.
Really fun.
All right, so I don't know that much about the band, and when I was reading up, and obviously it mentioned some of the bands that you guys have been connected with.
Sure.
And then I checked out Kerosene, which is a banging track. It wasn't at all what I expected.
Thank you.
Which, when you read the list of bands, but that's awesome in a way. But how would you describe yourselves? I mean, what?
I mean, I don't know how to describe our sound, but I feel like people kind of, they get an image in their head, or like a sound in their head, what we're going to sound like. But like, yeah, we've all got our own individual tastes.
Right.
Yeah, I think Gold Key is like, what do you reckon?
Well, I think we're very lucky to be from a sort of scene of bands. We've all grown up together, and everything we've done, regardless of what band we're in, every time we do a new release, we kind of just want to, I just get bored of doing something the same twice. What's the point? So Gold Key was just a fresh thing for all of us, and the members of thing is just coincidental, really.
So, but do you find yourselves on heavy bills or not? Or?
I mean, I guess if you want to look at it in a cynical...
We're playing downloads. So.
Yeah, if you look at it at a cynical industry point of view, I guess a lot of the people we know are involved in heavy music, so we do end up doing stuff like that. But, I like to think we're a breath of fresh air. Yeah. I think today proved that. So.
Have you got any favourite festivals that you normally like to play? I noticed you're doing 2000 Trees, which is an amazing
It's funny
festival.
you say that, because I've done a few interviews before where I've said 2000 Trees is my favourite UK festival. I feel like it's one festival where they really support like up and coming bands, and it's not all about like, and it's going to sound like I'm just like I'm hating on American bands or anything like that, but it's not. It's really like supporting homegrown talent. Mm-hmm. So like a lot of festivals rely on like big US headliners filling out for main stage and stuff. But like, yeah, it's just really fun. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's really
so are you all based in London? Or?
Well, we're from Watford. It's a small satellite north of London. Yeah. And we've grown up together. Like there's no master plan. It's just we've all been friends for so long. And I run a studio in Watford called Titan. I guess that's like the hub of it all. And we just decided to make a record.
Yeah. So Hello Phantom is the most recent. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's next? Have you planned?
Yeah, we went to Wales for like a week and smashed out an album there, which is pretty good. So now we're just in the process of mixing it. It's going to be some new music soon. Looking forward to getting some new stuff out there. And like, I think it's funny because I've been telling a few mates about it, and they're like, Hello Phantom's literally just come out and you're already putting it out. But I feel like some bands just spend so much time just like resting on their laurels, like not working on new stuff. But why waste the opportunity? Like Steve runs a studio, he's an amazing producer. Like we can just do stuff when we want to. So
I think maybe subconsciously as well, I've never really thought about it, but maybe there is a pressure for us to prove that we're like a real band. It's not some fucking side project. Right. So like, we're trying to be busy. It's a big priority for everyone. We've all got our own thing going on, but it's second album's great as well. Like the first one was sort of done over the course of a year, very much like a project thing, sprawling big project. And this one we just want to do the opposite, get out of my studio, get out of the comfort zone, and just do that record. Like my favourite records are something live and exciting. We track all of it live pretty much, and it's a rock record that reminds me of the stuff that got me excited about music.
Right, cool. If you could swap out a member of the band for anyone playing the festival this weekend, would you, and who would you do?
I mean, that's a tall order. I mean, that means chucking someone out. I'm not going to chuck anyone out. Can we add a member?
Yeah, you can add somebody.
I mean,
who would you add?
I don't know. I get a level with you. I don't really know who's playing. Don't know. Is there a good synth player out there? Apply within.
Right. Okay.
This is an advert. Come play our synth tracks.
And so, if anybody listening, if they've never heard Gold Key before, what one track should they go and check out right now? Would you say? Or you can pick one each if you want.
It's a tough one. I mean, I don't know. We're quite rooted in influence-wise, sort of prog music, prog bands, and I guess the title track of our album, Hello Phantom. It's not the most energetic song in the world, but I think it's the track we did that gave us the most confidence to sort of, imprint our sound. It's very chilled out, very spacey. I think our ethos with our music is, I want something that sounds like you're having sex in space. How about that? Yeah. So, and that song sort of exemplifies that quite well.
Nice. Well, thank you very much for having a chat with us.
No worries. Thank you.
Right, so that was the Saturday. Let's move on to the Sunday. Now, the Sunday was just a ridiculous day of bands, and quite honestly, you could pretty much just camp out at that. The second stage on the Sunday was Creator, Body Count, Thrice and Sugar, Alexis and Rise Against all in one row. So, I mean, of that, Body Count was kind of the first band. Oh, no, sorry, I tell a lie. We saw Hatebreed. Where were Hatebreed? Hatebreed were on the main stage, third down after Cradle. They were the first band we caught. And we watched their entire set. I mean, Hatebreed, like, you've seen Hatebreed before. They just smash out all the belters, and we got all the stuff like This Is Now, Into the Threshold. They cracked out loads of tracks and, like, Live for This, I Will Be Heard. Everything you'd want, really. Jasta was on form. The crowd were eating it up. Lots of people seemed to be nodding and banging their heads. I didn't see any circle pits.
Right.
Now, they're obviously the band. So whether the cameras weren't showing it or whether they're genuinely just there wasn't that kind of action, I've no idea.
It made them again. It did look very busy on Sunday as well, so maybe there wasn't room.
Yeah, possibly. I don't know, but it just seemed odd not to have seen it. So I don't know, but yeah, they were really cool. Really enjoyed Hatebreed. Caught a tiny bit of In This Moment, which it's not really for me, but they seem to have a good kind of big production on the stage, which is quite cool. We then went over to see Body Count, which of course is Ice-T. The last time they were in a tent, and now they were on the second stage outside. They had a massive crowd, absolutely packed right up to the vendors at the top of the hill.
Whoa,
which is odd because, let's face it, Body Count, although people of our age maybe have some love for that debut album because at the time it was quite funny and obviously it's Ice-T.
Yeah.
I would say at best their stuff is very mediocre as music.
Yeah.
It's pretty average as music goes, I would say.
But again, they're also in that sort of that zone of they don't come over here that often, so...
And obviously, Ice-T is just a legend in his own right, so people will go and watch, for him alone.
Yeah.
And they came out with their cover to Raining Blood, which is, a fantastic download festival opener. You got some stuff off the debut album, but not as much as last time, and none of the kind of gimmicks of, people getting shot on stage and that kind of stuff. So they did, There Goes the Neighbourhood and Cop Killer and Bowels of the Devil. It became very clear that people didn't know the stuff. So, people were there to watch it, but they certainly weren't there to kind of sing along and know anything. So the crowd was quite still. However, they kind of got away with it just because Ice-T is so charismatic on stage. His on-stage banter is always top-notch. And if you combine that with his humour, plus very strong messages that, stand up today as they did back then, he even brought his very young daughter on stage. It was a good show to watch.
Yeah.
So then we just hung around there basically for Thrice, who it was nice to see him, on the big stage, which is cool. A notably quiet crowd because we went and stood practically on the barrier and it was spacious. I mean, I'm sure it still looked pretty busy from the screens, but it was spacious. But they sounded really, really good. Really, really tight set. Very minimalistic, as you might expect, of the show. And they just got to business, just playing all the tracks you'd like. I think you'd have been pretty happy that, as I wrote it down, the set was Hurricane, Silhouette of Dust and Nations, Black Honey, Artists in the Ambulance, the new single, The Grey, which I didn't know at the time, so I was like, what's this?
Oh, yeah, it came out over the weekend, yeah.
The Window, and then they closed out on The Earth Will Shake.
Cool.
So, yeah, I mean, it's a pretty cool mix. I mean, they didn't do... what's track 5 off Artist in the Ambulance, the big one? Stare at the Sun.
Yeah.
Which I've never seen them not play before. But that was cool. I mean, it was awesome ending on The Earth Will Shake.
Yeah, that's a nice little set list.
And the thing is, the crowd that were there were absolutely loving it, which was really nice.
Right.
So, yeah, that was really cool. And then Meshuggah.
Yep.
Straight after Thrice.
They did a bigger turnout.
Yeah, they pulled the people in. I mean, still, it wasn't as busy as Body Count.
Yeah.
I mean, Meshuggah just sounded huge. And considering it was in the day, they made really good use of their lighting rig and smoke. And they had that crazy looking, that weird... I don't know how they've done their backdrop. It looks totally 3D, even though it's probably not. Do you know what I mean? It looks like it's almost not a backdrop at all. Like it's textured and stuff. It's very odd to look at.
Okay.
I'd need to see it kind of up close. I don't know how they've done it, but it looks so cool, this kind of backdrop thing that they've got, and all these panels and stuff. And again, I mean, their set was just so much fun to watch, tight as hell as you might expect. And they did, Do Not Look Down, Rational Gaze, Straws Pulled at Random, Demiurge, and even though they didn't play
Bleed.
They didn't do Bleed. They didn't do not Rational Gaze. Future. No, they did Rational Gaze. They didn't do Future Breed Machine, and they didn't do New Millennium Cyanide. So some of their biggest well-known tracks didn't do any of that, and it was still ridiculously good.
Okay.
Which just goes to show. So yeah, they sounded tight as hell. Right, let's just sneak in another interview then. Now this was the first one I did of the weekend, which is actually with Liam of Cancer Bats. And I recorded this on my old phone and realised afterwards that the screen it's completely smashed to hell. And as such, I don't know if that affected the recording, but this one is a bit noisy and a bit more distorted than the others. So just to give you a little warning, but it's not too bad. So here you go. Was it hard picking the set for today, or is it?
Oh, we have not done it yet.
Oh, really? Who's in charge of that?
Me. But
do you like to surprise them?
I've got time. No, I do I like doing a consensus with the dude. We'll like talk it through. So we all do. I should say that we all do.
Do you find that you change it up more for festivals?
No, I like keeping it real.
Right.
You know, I feel like sometimes deep cuts, aren't wanted on the festival stage. Why you just try and go with bangers, right? I kind of look at it like I want to go and see a band and have them play all the songs I want to hear. So I try and think of that from the same perspective. That wasted kid who's been partying all day, he doesn't want to hear some song he doesn't know. He wants to hear Hail Destroyer. He wants to hear Sabotage, man.
Yeah.
I don't want to tease him with some weird song he's never heard before. That being said, we'll probably play a couple songs off our new record.
Yeah.
I hope that wasted kid's heard those songs.
Well, so I'm fascinated when bands like flash drop albums.
Oh yeah,
so
we did
tell
it.
me about the Spark the Moves, because are you quite a meticulous band? Do you normally plan stuff?
Yes and no. I think there was still a ton of planning that went into this.
Right.
Like, even though it was all done on the same day.
Yeah.
So it was like plan, no plan kind of thing. So yeah, we do take a lot of it like really seriously and want to have like as much cool stuff as we can, but on this side we just have the confidence of kind of like, I don't know, our fans being really rad for as long as they have. I was like, man, we can just put this out and people will be stoked.
Because obviously you forgo the whole PR advertising build-up.
Yeah.
But then you get that explosion of feeds.
Yeah, exactly. So
it's
there
weighing
is
up.
still, you're like just kind of like loading the cannon in a different way.
But then at the same time, how did you keep it quiet? Because genuinely, nobody seemed to know.
Yeah, well, it was wicked.
Certainly over here, anyway. I don't know.
No. It was like definitely partially because we recorded the record in January.
Okay.
So we just put it out we finished it and put it out immediately.
Yeah, sweet.
Like we picked up the records 2 days before we went and played the first show. Do you know what I mean? So it was because it was so busy and so tight, there wasn't really that much to keep a secret. I think if we were sitting on it for a long time, but this was just okay, now it's out. And we were too busy with actually preparing everything and getting it ready to be sitting around being bored, wishing people could watch the music videos or wishing people could do the things.
But, so when you recorded it in January though, did you know that you were going to just...
Oh yeah. Everything was working towards...
Because obviously for planning the stuff that follows it, your tours and stuff, that all had to be sorted.
Yeah, everything had to be kind of lined up. And I was basically just lining it up with the Hail 10-year shows to kind of just maximize the impact of those shows.
Yeah.
More, I think of it logistically, everyone I know who likes Cancer Bats will be in the same spot.
Yeah.
So might as well bring the new Cancer Bats record to that party. And I was like, I'll just get two birds stoned at once.
Cool. So, and this weekend, Download, you get to party all weekend, or is it just today?
It's just today, and then we go, we're still going to party, but we're just partying in our own shows, in Exeter and Plymouth and stuff like that.
If you could swap out a member of your band for anybody who's playing the festival this weekend, would you do it, and who?
I wouldn't do it. No.
Oh, okay.
I mean, maybe because it would be fun, for giggles. I'd actually swap out Matt from the Bronx to sing for Cancer Bats because I think that'd be fun to watch.
Yeah.
It'd be more just stuff like that. Actually, I'd get all my buddies, David from Culture Abuse, and I'd get Matt Tuck. I'd get everyone to just sing Cancer Bat songs.
Nice.
So I already know the songs how they should sound, right? So it would be interesting to watch their take.
And then 2 quick questions before we wrap up.
Okay.
1, if nobody's heard Cancer Bats before, what track should they go and check out?
What track should they?
Yeah.
Bricks and Mortar. That's the
Okay.
song it's my go-to. Just because it's a nice, easy, bouncy track.
Yeah.
It kind of covers all the Cancer Bats bases.
And then is there any bands from your hometown that we should be excited about? Any underground bands or anything that we might not know over here?
Heart Attack Kids. That's
Don't know
a
them.
new, amazing rock band from, kind of Toronto area.
Nice.
It's a 2-piece drums and bass, and guitar. And sounds sort of like the Bronx and Rocket from the Crypt,
Wicked.
but played by 20-year-olds. So it's really fun.
Cool. Thank you very much, man.
No, you're very
Cheers.
welcome.
So then Alexis, which I was super excited for, but by that point we'd been stood at this stage for hours, and that was the point where the sun was just relentless all afternoon.
Oh, at that low angle as well.
Yeah, it just wasn't going, and there's no clouds, and I just, I can't stomach the sun anyway. So I was like, I'm going to catch some of it, and then Zeal and Ardor were they cut into their set anyway, and I wanted to be at the front for them. So I thought, well, I'll watch the start, 3 or 4 songs, and then make sure I can get a drink and then be in for Zeal and Ardor. So Alexis, I mean, it proper filled up, as you might expect.
Yeah.
Big crowd for them. People seemed excited. Kicked off with Young Cardinals, Boiled Frogs, We Are the Sounds, and Crisis, and then I had to leave.
Okay, that's a good start.
Yeah, it popped out. I mean, again, very minimalistic set. Much like the Thrice one, as I saw it, I don't think they'd kind of brought any production over with them at all.
No, they just seemed they just focus on doing their thing, really.
Yeah, but no, I mean, it sounded good. I would have loved to have stayed, for the full thing. But it was all about trying to catch Zeal and Ardor, who had a great billing of like support to Baroness. So only one down, which is really cool in the tent.
Yep.
Not particularly busy. In fact, I'd say it's pretty spacious for them.
Okay.
I was kind of stood in the middle near the front. And you know how those tents, I mean, they pack out and they just literally spill with bodies out the sides, don't they?
Yeah.
Nothing like that.
Okay.
So I don't know if it was one of those bands where people still just don't really know the name that much.
Yeah, I mean, and again, it is kind of slightly bespoke in taste, and at the same time, you're also going up against Marilyn Manson and Alexis and the and Less Than Jake.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So you're kind of like, you're going up against some bigger names.
I also hadn't realised that their new album had literally just popped out.
Yeah, like a week, just over a week ago.
Yeah. So this was a mix of. I mean, it wasn't a very long set. He came at a great sound, and he comes on, and he's got basically 2 dudes either side who do the backing, like the kind of the gospel-y, all that backing singing stuff, and then he's got a full band as well with him playing guitar and singing as well.
Cool.
So it's full setup. It sounds ace. It looks cool. And the new stuff sounded great. I mean, I didn't know any of it, but the new tracks sounded cool. And he played literally like every of the big tracks off the debut album that we love. Came on to that, that was that one kind of drum and bassy interlude quite early on. I think it's track 2.
Yeah.
That was like the intro, which is a right cool little piece of electronica. It sounded ace through all the subs through the PA system. So that was cool. Really enjoyed them. And then just nipped out right at the end to see what Marilyn Manson was all about over on the main stage.
Yep.
He had, so when I got there, he was just cracking out Mob Scene, and then did Kill For Me off the new album, and then The Dope Show, which is probably my favourite track of his, so that's pretty cool. Sweet Dreams, and then I saw Say 10, and then I'd Shoot Off. So
how was he compared to some of the footage we've seen of him last year?
Well, I thought he sounded and looked fine. Like it looked, from the bit I saw, like there wasn't much production to the show, so very bare bones kind of show. They had a backdrop that kind of changed, but that was about it. I didn't see anything else. So fairly drab looking stage set, but he himself seemed absolutely fine, on form. He sounded pretty good. There wasn't too much banter. He kind of did the the girl coming up on stage thing that he always does. But bearing in mind the last time I saw him, which I can't remember what year, he spent much of the time crying lying on the stage.
Right.
So it was quite an improvement.
Yeah, well, yeah, quite.
I quite enjoyed it. Like, I caught that just I don't know what the rest of the set was like, but certainly that little middle run that I saw, I like all those tracks. So yeah, that was pretty cool.
Cool.
And then I think that's mostly it, other than Ozzy. Let's double check.
You didn't catch any Baroness?
No, sadly not. Needed a beer by that point.
Right.
And then it was kind of getting back out to Ozzy.
Okay, and how was Ozzy?
Ozzy, so we drove back on the Sunday, so I just kind of caught the first bit, and I thought the band were tight, and I thought he sounded fine. Like, he looked good. He had a good energy on stage. The last time we saw him with Black Sabbath, he felt like everything was half a beat out of time.
Yeah.
So it felt I wasn't saying he was drunk, but it felt slightly drunk in the performance there. Everything was just this kind of half a beat, just a bit late and a bit kind of, this kind of drawl of, untidiness.
Yeah.
And obviously his pitch was a little bit off.
Yeah, that was what I was going to say. It wasn't exactly in key.
But none of that. I thought he sounded great. And I mean, Aussie's set, it's full of stuff. I mean, there was one of my mates was there who stayed to the end, and he said it was just full of all the stuff you'd want, and it was a great show.
Cool.
So that was pretty cool. Yeah, I would have liked to have stayed for the whole thing. It was a shame, but
Zach Wild, it was all back up and running and playing, wasn't he?
Yeah, which was cool.
Cool.
I think apparently it was Blasco playing for him as well. From Rob Zombie.
Oh, sweet, cool.
So I did. There's quite a few bands I managed to catch. I mean, obviously when you're there, we make a point to try and
split up.
Yeah, we'll kind of split up. So it'll be like, well, you go and catch these, and I'll catch these, and we can kind of report back at the end. So tried to cover as much as possible. Some stuff I would have liked to have seen that I missed, but that's how it goes. As for that, the festival's pretty much the same as it always was. The layout was kind of the same. I'm gutted because the Fever 333 got announced.
Yeah, I saw that on Twitter on the Wednesday or Thursday. So again, it was kind of like I was seeing all these last minute additions that just were making me think, whatever.
Yeah, I didn't catch that at all. They did the weird cup thing as well, where you go to the bar and then you have to pay for £2 for a cup, and the idea is that you reuse the cup.
Yes.
Which happens sometimes, and then you can take the cup to somewhere that I'd never found and wasn't signposted to get your £2 back. I don't think I managed to take a single cup back. So.
Good job.
Yeah. So there you go. That was my download.
Brilliant. Okay. Well, and would you do it again?
Oh hell yeah! It was good fun.
Right. Well, maybe next year then.
Yeah, definitely. We'll just close out on 2 interviews back to back. The first one is going to be with Helpless, and then the last one will be Thy Art Is Murder.
Ooh, cool.
Anything else you want to add?
I'm sorry that I couldn't contribute to this episode any further, other than just sort of chipping in here and there.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Well, we're going to do 2,000 Trees together, so...
Yes, that one is definitely on and won't fall through, like Download did. So yes, wicked.
Nice. All right, we'll see you very soon for episode 175. Please send in your thoughts, any reviews of the festival and stuff that we can read out in the next show.
Yeah, info@machograndepodcast.co.uk. Tweet at us at Macho Grande Pod. You can find us on Facebook, just search Macho Grande Podcast, and same on Instagram. And in fact, I think you've got some of your photos on there.
Yeah, there's a couple of bits up. I managed to take a few more than normal this year.
Yeah, I in fact saw you a photo on the big wheel.
Oh yeah, I like a nice little slow ride around the wheel. That's nice.
Yeah, so I did see that shot over the weekend. So yeah, I'm feeling that we'll speak to you again in a week or so.
Nice. Let's see you later.
So I'm actually gutted because we got on site too late to catch your set. But how was it? Because I've never seen you live before either. And I'd marked you down as one of the bands I really wanted to see this weekend. So I'm gutted.
It's great.
Yeah.
Really, it was. Nothing went wrong, which was great. This is a plus.
Yeah.
But yeah, it sounded cool. For us, it sounded cool. Hopefully, it sounded cool up front. But yeah, it was good. Felt comfortable, and we played it all right.
I wasn't dripping with sweat this time, so it was good.
Yeah, that was nice. Yeah.
So, Debt was one of the nastiest and brilliant releases of last year. But I don't actually know much about the band whatsoever, so I don't know where you guys are from, or what kind of stuff you're into, or anything like that.
We're from Plymouth.
And what sort of influences would you say?
We kind of started off as we wanted to be a Gaza rip-off band, but that slowly changed. Quickly changed. I don't know. Bands like The Secret, Converge, Jesus Lizard, Kenmo,
Melvins.
Yeah, Melvins, loads of Melvins.
I also thought it was one of the best looking front covers of last year. Who did the artwork for that?
It's Chris Nichols. Soft Geometry Creative from Bristol.
Right.
He's a band called Age Decay and Oh the Guilt. They're really good bands as well. We just Steve suggested him, so I really wanted an oil painting kind of Francis Bacon style.
It's so cool.
Yeah, and Steve showed me his stuff, and it was perfect. It was great, and he's a brilliant artist. Chris.
And so, how do you guys find the UK scene with the brutal stuff? Do you feel like you're part of something, and what's the scene like in Plymouth?
The UK scene, I guess we don't really. I don't know. We're so out on a limb. It's hard to feel a part of anything. But we've had some we've got some real like strong connections with certain people we tour with, like a band called Ren. Amazing band. We kind of really locked in with those guys, and it was just like, it feels like we just want to play with them constantly. They're really cool. But yeah, there's
I think we're kind of varied enough in our style that, like, we toured with Monolithium recently, and they're like a doom band, and they're fucking great. And it's nice to be able to work with, you know, not just a grindcore band or a hardcore band or a sludge band or whatever.
Yeah, it's nice to.
And that was always the intention. You know, it's like the bands that we like are varied, you know, in their style. That's what we want.
So we're not like locked into one scene.
Yeah, so it's not just blast beats, it's not just slow, you know, like mix of both, really.
Yeah. And so what's the plans after this, like the rest of the year and stuff?
Writing, so yeah, we got a couple gigs in August. So playing with Hexis in Plymouth and playing with Full of Hell in Bristol and Rough Trade.
Any other festivals this year?
No.
Do you normally go to festivals? Are you fans? Or?
Yeah, we all go to festivals.
Yeah. Favourite festival that you've been to?
Hellfest, when the Melvins played, was like the best fucking festival. That was like the first big festival I went to as well. I was late to the party, but Melvins played like 2 hours, so that was like the best thing ever.
Yeah, there's loads about. Went to Oration in Iceland, which was pretty mental. There's loads of cool festivals around. Yeah, try to get to like at least one a year. Like did Roadburn last year. Really cool festival as well.
I really used to love Reading, but it's just disappeared now into a weird.
It's not very heavy anymore, is it?
Well, it just used to, like, yeah, it used to be just a great place to see, like, bands like the Jesus Lizard and things like that on a main stage was just like a mind blower. But now it just doesn't happen, and it's just disappearing in some odd kind of trap hip hop festivals, which is fine. It's nice. You know, we listen to that in the band, but it's kind of like, yeah, when it's all there, it's just a bit much. But yeah. So I don't know. Favourite festival? I'm not sure.
So if anybody hadn't heard Helpless before, what one song should they go and check out?
We've all got different ones. There's a particular favourite from the crowd.
Okay.
Which is Denied Sale.
Right.
But I mean, individually, we've all got like our own favourite tracks. Like, I like Moral Bankruptcy.
I really like playing Grief Ritual.
Grief Ritual. Can't even say the song title.
It's a Bastion song, Grief Ritual.
Grief
Vultures.
We're not Bastions.
We're not Bastions. Yeah, I keep doing the same thing. Yeah, I keep thinking I'm in Bastions all the time, and I'm not. But yeah, yeah, Grief Vulture, great. Like that's the one I like. That's the most fun one to play. But to listen to, God knows
shit. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you guys. Thanks for having a chat with us. Have a good weekend.
Thank you very much.
Probably the heaviest band, I would say, on the festival. Does that kind of feel good? Like walking out knowing that you're just brutal as fuck?
It's not really a thing that we think about. We joke about it most of the time because this is an issue for us generally. Like it's hard to find bands that are as heavy as us or heavier, and generally if they're heavier than us, they don't want to play with us, which doesn't make sense to me at all because we like playing with everybody.
I was going to say, do you like playing on more of a mixed bill then, where it's not just like, you know, deathcore fans, for example? Or...
Absolutely. I mean, so many factors come into it. The style of music. Do you enjoy the band? Do you enjoy their execution? Do you like them as people? Do you like their fans? Are their fans going to like you? It's a super complex kind of situation, but we like playing with everybody. I mean, variety's the spice of life, you know.
You guys due to go on stage a couple of hours' time. Mm-hmm. Do you pick the set differently for something like this, or is it kind of part of the run?
Yeah, we do pick the sets differently. So I think I had to program 7 different set lists for this tour. Yeah. So ahead of time, I kind of go through the different shows and the amount of time that we're going to play for, and then decide on like a set list. And then after the first week, we'll kind of reflect on how the different sets have performed. Do we need to rearrange the songs? Do we need to pick and choose different songs in those sets? And so I think pretty much we're like a week and a half in now and we're ready to go. So we've got our festival set list.
Nice. And did you get to hang around like tomorrow as well, catch some bands, or?
Absolutely not. I walk off stage, get in my bus and go to Germany, which is far away. So Yeah.
And Dear Desolation came out nearly a year ago.
Yes.
Any thoughts or plans yet for the next one, or is that too far away?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, about 10 months ago. What date is it? I don't know. A little bit more than 10 months ago, maybe. Less than 10 months. So yeah, you know, we've basically just been touring ever since it came out, and haven't really had much of a chance to think about the next one. That being said, we're starting to put the wheels in motion, like on behind the scenes, like what are we going to do? When do we want to do it? So in that respect, like the loose planning, but we haven't really put any serious thought into what is it going to sound like? When are we going to make it? What is it going to be called? Or, you know.
Do you keep your sort of ears to the ground on what the scene's doing, or does that not factor into it?
No, we don't give a shit what anyone thinks. We just do whatever it is that we're going to do. We're from Australia, kind of. I mean, we're never there. So.
There seems to be a steady influx of good bands from Australia, and like obviously Unified doing great things, loads of bands.
A lot of people say this, and I always say the same thing to them. There's a barrier to entry for Australian bands to make it into the world market of heavy music, particularly, because it's so hard to turn a buck as it is, let alone get out of an island on the other side of the planet. So only our best gets out there. So you guys just think that all of our bands are good because only our good bands come over here. We got lots of shit bands, like as many as the rest of the world. So it's just like, it's one of those things, a bit of confusion there.
Are there any bands that we might not know that we should check out? Little local bands, or?
No, there's heaps of bands. There's a band like an alternative rock band from Brisbane called Deadlights, who are fantastic and absolutely kill it on Spotify.
I remember a new metal band called the Deadlights.
Yeah, I think that band messaged the band Deadlights and said, give us our name back, and they said, no one cares about you, fuck off. Because no one does care about them.
But they don't now, but that album at the time was really good.
Well, as
new metal albums go.
Never heard of them, but Limp Bizkit was my new metal icon. So there's that band, cool alternative rock band, a hardcore band, like this blackened hardcore band that we brought over here last year from Sydney called Justice for the Damned, who are really sick. It's like Nails, kind of, but with like a black metal influence. It's pretty cool. And then, I don't know, everything else is like sick, but you've already heard about it. North Lane, In Heart's Wake, Parkway Drive. I mean, I'm lucky that we can call those guys our peers because they're really, really good bands, so, you know.
And then, so two final questions. One, if anybody out there's listening that's never heard Die Out As Murder before, what one song would you direct them to go check out?
Puppet Master from our new album, Dear Desolation.
And then, do you have a book, film, or CD recommendation from your entire life?
From my entire life? Hitch 22, a memoir by Christopher Hitchens, who's a Brit. And film, I don't know, there's too many. I really like film. So, and then a CD to check out would have to be Significant Other by Limp Bizkit. Nice. One of my favourite albums of all time.
Thank you very much for chatting with me. Cheers, dude. Thank you.
Over Macho Grande? No, I don't think I'll ever get over Macho Grande.